Hi, and welcome to the second video in a 4-part series about LangChain. This video will talk about prompts and prompt templates and how we can use that to further build up chains and agents. So from video 1, wherein we did the basics of LangChain, where we imported LangChain, used from LangChain you were able to get the OpenAI. There are different LLMs that are there, but we chose OpenAI. We built our OpenAI key, and that's something that we want to give to the environment, and instantiate LLM from OpenAI. Now to get on to prompts, let's just try to build a prompt and try to see how prompt templates work. We want to understand what are the reviews of a specific product. Let's say mountain bikes. Since you give me the review of Giant Stance. Let's take a mountain bike Giant Stance in 3 key points. We can feed this to the LLM. So now we've got the summary, which is essentially excellent suspension, quality components, affordable prices. But let's say a customer or us, or whenever we're building a kind of product, wants to test another product, right? So let's say take the same text, and rather than keeping Giant Stance, they want to test another product or another mountain bike. Let's say Canyon Neuron. All right, so now we've got a different product, and let's just feed it back to the LLM again, and let's see what is the output that we get. So now what we see is that we're getting a different output for this specific bike. It's about Canyon Neuron. The other one was for Giant Stance. But one thing you would have noticed is that when we're giving this prompt, there are basically 2 parts to the prompt. You look at this text, there are 2 parts to this text. One is static, right? Like if you look at this part, give me the review of in 3 points. This is static, does not change. And the other part is dynamic. So the dynamic part is essentially the name of the mountain bike, in this case Canyon Neuron, right? So we can think about this from a customer's perspective. The dynamic part is essentially the product that they're looking at, and everything else which is fixed can be called as a template. So based off this thought process, you're able to use LangChain to build this. So from LangChain has something called as product templates. So let's say prompt templates. So let's see how it goes. So we can say from LangChain, within the prompts, it has something called as prompt template, right? So we're able to get prompt templates from this. Now, once we get a prompt template, the prompt templates primarily needs 2 things, right? So what it needs is, when you're building a prompt, let's just name this variable as prompt. What this variable really needs is, if we're calling the class prompt template, we need to give it primarily 2 inputs. Remember, the first is static. There's 2 parts, like static and dynamic. So the static part is what it calls as input variables. So when you think about input variables, think about it's a string that the client or the end customer would need to add in, right? So it's a product in our case, which is essentially the mountain bike example that we're taking. And the next thing is the static part, right? So essentially give me the review of. So this template, we can just copy this here. This template is essentially where this input variable would go. So now we see that this product from this input variable would go into this area of Canyon Neuron. So this is going to be dynamic, and therefore what we can do is we can just add in product. So product effectively is the input variable. If there are more than one, then we would just change them across this, right? Now this is what is a prompt as far as LangChain would build that. Now how we can see our prompts would be, let's say for example, if we look at a prompt and we use a prompt, and we can just call it, let's just say format it. Formatting, we're just changing the input variable. So we could say in this case product, right? Product is equal to, let's just say Giant Stance. Oh, okay. And this should give us the template with this product part filled in. So essentially it is giving us, give me the review of Giant Stance in 3 key points. All right. Now let's just take this and add it to, let's just say text from prompt. Okay, let's say text from prompt. And now we can feed this to our LLM. So we can just go to the LLM like the one that we did before, but this time we can just feed it from text from prompt. Now, one thing you may have noticed is that the response that we keep getting changes from time to time. Now, that's primarily because of the temperature settings that we have. So let's just quickly look at what temperatures really are. If we just do a standard, the one that we're doing till now, this gives it a default setting of 0.7. So let's say if you want to set temperature, so temperature varies from 0 to 1. Where 0 is that the model should essentially give us the same output every single time. So let's sort of run this the first time and see what's the output that we get. All right, so we're getting is a great entry-level mountain bike that offers this. This is the first response, and now if we run the same thing, we should get exactly the same response. Word by word, it should be the same because our temperature setting is 0. That means it should give us the same response every single time. Okay, let's see what happens. All right, now when you look at this, is a great entry-level bike and you compare it to the one before, it's exactly the same because the temperature settings are there. However, if we go ahead and change the temperature settings, and let's say we say now, again we set up another one, which is OpenAI. Let's say temperature is equal to, let's just change it, right? The more you get, the higher it is, the more variable responses you can expect. And we can just copy this. And now when we go into a temperature setting, we should get different responses. But now when you look at this, if you run it twice, with each time you run, you will get a different output on those. All right, at this stage, we've just covered the basic, which would be about how prompts are built and what's the structure of a prompt. From this on, we would now combine this concept into something called as chains.